Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game Podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 26. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, both as coaches and as competitive athletes. I really want to thank all of you who have liked, shared, subscribed to the show, and continue to listen. Your continued support allows us to bring on more expert level guests and highlight more in the strength conditioning field, just like our guest today. I also want to thank Cerberus Strength for bringing you this episode today for free. Cerberus is an organization that truly puts the athlete first and is actively working towards providing the best quality gear at an affordable price. Owned and operated by active lifters, Cerberus has quickly evolved into a global brand symbolizing quality and trust. Their ever-growing product range is used by top athletes around the world at the highest level of competition, and every single Cerberus Strength product has been designed with performance in mind, with the highest attention to detail. If you're in the market for the highest quality strength and conditioning gear and equipment, be sure to check out cerberusstrength.com and use promo code STRENGTH_game to receive an extra 10% off your next order. And in this week's episode, I'm joined by a new friend of mine, fellow California coach, Michael Robinson. Michael is an assistant strength conditioning coach at California Baptist University, where he oversees training for the women's basketball, women's volleyball, women's water polo, men's and women's swim, and the wrestling program at CBU. Originally starting as a part-time coach, he was promoted to a full-time assistant in 2018. And prior to CBU, Robinson was a director of strength conditioning and player development at Citrus College in Glendora, California, as well as the head assistant men's basketball coach. He's also spent time as a graduate assistant in the kinesiology department at Cal Baptist and self-ran his own training business, working with athletes on skill, player development, and sports performance. Robinson started his college basketball career at nearby UC San Diego before transferring to finish his last two seasons at Cal Baptist. Currently, he's finding new ways to compete and is actively training and competing in triathlons, as well as various other distance-based endurance races. Like I said, I'm excited to have him on the show today. So with all that said, let's get in the game with Michael Robinson. What's going on, everybody? I'm excited today. I am joined by a new friend of mine that we got to link up with when our wrestling teams combated against each other. Michael Robinson, what's going on, man?
What's happening, Nick? How we doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Hanging in there over here. I know, same for you. We're both sitting in the hot zones in California, so definitely doing as much as we can right now to hold the fort down. Hey, so I want to hop right into it. Kind of talk about how you got involved in the strength game, like what kind of training you were doing, what sports you played growing up, eventually playing basketball, and then shifting gears into what you're doing now, competing in triathlons.
Yeah, man, it's been an interesting journey. Like every strength coach, it's always the aspiring athlete, who maybe couldn't make it or just had the itch for training and, growing up. And so I actually started really young. I was a multi-sport athlete growing up. So I kind of did everything. I started swimming when I was like 3 or 4, which is weird because I was a basketball player. I was a collegiate basketball player, and hoops has always been my love and my passion. But I swam. I loved soccer too growing up. Did a little pee-wee football, didn't take it into high school because I was too afraid to get hit too hard by a really big dude and mess myself up for basketball. But yeah, I mean, I tried everything. Tennis. I played baseball for a season, figured out that it's a really slow game and was immediately out. So that was kind of my stitch in baseball. But yeah, I did every sport growing up. But the first day, I had a basketball in my hand when I was 4. I fell in love with the game and just kind of worked my way up through middle school and high school. to be able to be a good enough player to get a scholarship and go play collegiately. And that's kind of where things kind of tied off for me. I was still running cross country and doing track and field and playing basketball in high school. And then my senior year, I kind of just realized, hey, basketball is really, that's my love and that's where I'm going to go. And I'm trying to, go play overseas at the end of the day or go to the league. And so I really shifted all my focus there. And when I got to college, then just played basketball. My first 3 years at UCSD. So I was there for 3 years and then ended up transferring my last 2 years to California Baptist, which is where I'm strength coach at right now, and kind of finished up my time there. Ended up not going to play overseas or go to the league, and through my time as a player in college and my experiences and academic experiences and playing experiences, I was able to really understand what I wanted to do. And that's kind of how I've come to this position.
No, that's cool. I know you were doing a lot of sports when you were growing up, and I know you talked about like you already had started cross country, and it's an interesting combination when you think about most basketball players. I think that would be definitely bottom of the list. Maybe swimming's down there too. Definitely don't want to do that either for whatever reason. Hey, but going forward now, I know you've been competing in triathlons. You've had to do a few virtually, like during this process. Like, what really kind of sparked that interest to keep competing and then pick a new lane now that your basketball career's kind of shifted and it's over?
Yeah, it's definitely to your point, it's definitely at the bottom of the list. I mean, I can't remember a time when I was in high school, when I was running cross country. I mean, it helped with all the suicides that our coach had us run. But I can't remember a time where any other basketball player I knew was like, yeah, I want to go run, or I enjoy running. And I think most don't. But it kind of started when I was younger, to kind of take it back. So I actually was kind of I wouldn't say overweight, but I was pretty chunky growing up, and I was really short. So I was a late bloomer. I was young for my class. And so in 7th grade, I was like maybe like 5'3", like a $150 or something like that, like pretty heavy. And my first, if people are familiar with middle school, you do a turkey trot or like a mile run. Everybody has to do it and it sucks. And so my first ever run was around a 12-30-minute mile. And I was trotting, man, I was literally trotting past the finish line, and I got done and I was like, man, that was terrible. The worst thing I'd ever experienced. I'm out of shape. Like, I feel like I shouldn't be that slow, because I felt like I was athletic because I was a basketball player. So I kind of just joined the cross country team from there. And I think maybe it runs in my family a little bit. I got to give genetics a little bit of a prop, because my mom actually was a cross country coach at the time. And so I was around a lot of runners, but never really was interested in it. And I kind of just took flight and was like, let me just try it. And so my mom was running and she was coaching. And so I got into middle school cross country, ended up losing a lot of weight and got really fast to where I went from like a 12-30-minute mile in 7th grade to like a 5-30-minute mile by 8th grade, and ended up being able to make it to nationals with my middle school coach, and was running like sub 5, like 4:59 miles, like end of 8th grade. And I was like, who am I? And then ended up making the high school varsity cross country team. And that's kind of what sparked it. Like I said, I've been around a lot of runners because of my mom, and I still kind of had this enjoyment for swimming because I was still doing grade school swimming. And so I ended up doing three or four triathlons in high school, and really enjoyed them. I did like the Long Beach Tri, the Hemet Tri, the Temecula Tri, and one other one, and like placed relatively well for my age group, and just enjoyed the different challenge it presents mentally as well as physically, the endurance sport compared to basketball, compared to more, power and intermittent sports. And so it's kind of just always been in my back pocket, but I've never really used it competitively, but it's always helped me keep that edge with basketball. It's helped me push maybe a little bit more than a teammate or a little bit more than an opponent, because I just kind of have the physical endurance background, but also kind of the mental fortitude that I think every endurance athlete understands. It's just another level to be able to push yourself through, these kind of endurance bouts. And so, when I was done playing basketball, when I realized that I could be a better coach and a player, I still stay in tune with my hoops game, and I'm still a bucket low key. If we want to run fives or one-on-one, I'm always about that action. But for me, in my kind of switch of coaching, it's what can keep me mentally sharp, as well as physical. And I kind of just went back to those roots, and I started running again. And then I'm a strength coach for my swim team here, and so it kind of started out as a joke. I was just like, yeah, let me go in here and just kind of see what these guys are about. Let me swim. Let me, kind of hop in the water and see if I can take one of these guys. And I got blown away, which I expected because I was slow in the water. But I kind of just hopped back into running, swimming. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think I could really be competitive with this. Like, I'm the type of person where I don't just go in and kind of dabble with it and then kind of leave it to the side. I really go for it. And so I went straight from not swimming and not running that much outside of basketball to, all right, here we go. Ironman, let's do it. So I started training and swimming and running again. And 5 months away from my first Ironman. And then obviously, COVID happened. And so it shut it down. But I was able to compete virtually still last year. And we've been training for another one at the end of last year, and it got postponed again. And so now I'm training for the next one in October, and trying to maybe do a couple other endurance events, like maybe a half marathon or marathon, some other things coming up here in the summer to kind of prep for that. And also, use the training that I was building up for to put it to some use.
No, that's awesome. It's cool that since it is triathlon, you're working with so many different events, and you have the swimmers there, and you already have a cross country like running background too. So it's interesting, just because most coaches, often like strength coaches, are going to pick a barbell strength sport. So it's interesting to kind of like shift gears completely, kind of go back to your roots, what you started with. And then, I mean, it helped you when you were basketball. And I like what you said, like talking about mental fortitude. And I mean, I do not like running in that capacity. If there's a ball involved, if I can play lacrosse, if I have a stick or something, then at least it confuses myself to be fun, but it's just long-term suffering to me. But it's a second gear, and it gives you some buy-in with the athletes for sure. And for you, like, I mean, that's what training's for me the same way. It keeps me mentally, physically sharp, and it makes me more relatable. But it's completely different doing long-term stuff by yourself, that mental side of it, where it's just you and kind of the open road. It's definitely something that I'm not a fan of at the moment, like personally doing, but I completely respect everybody that like goes out and does those three things, especially put together, especially an Ironman. Those are wild. So man, I wish you luck getting ready for that stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was so with all the like your training experience and competing now on these endurance based ones, I know you have swimming, so that kind of is like easily relatable with your athletes, but how has that sort of training also benefited like your coaching, and then vice versa? Like what lessons can you take away like from your coaching that specifically help you with your own training?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. I think, so the teams I'm in charge of, swim, men and women swim, women's water polo, so another aquatics sport, and then men's wrestling, as we talked about, and then women's hoops and women's volleyball. And so, yeah, a wide range of different sports and different athletes. But I think the thing that I've taken away from my training into my coaching is there's such a different level of this underneath the surface of an athlete and under the sport of the mental capacity of things, not just learning an exercise or not just learning a movement pattern, but really just like motivation and the basis of just learning, right? And I think to make things sticky in your mind and also for the sport, there has to be a level of motivation. There has to be a level of mental engagement. And there also has to be a little mental level of adversity. Because just like anything else in life, right? If there's no adversity and I'm not challenged by something, but I'm not also stimulated by something mentally, it's probably very unlikely that it's going to stick to my learning pattern and also to translating to my sport. So I think that's kind of the thing that I've taken is, during my training, training throughout the day in between teams, and also, training different sport or 3 different events, and still, being sharp for basketball and all these things. It's a lot, but, like what are the motivations, and also checking in with myself. So it's kind of helped with a recovery basis with my athletes. So, I'll give you a practical example, like, checking in with my athletes more, like just not even doing like athlete wellness surveys and all that stuff. Because I think sometimes we can, as coaches, we get so consumed with data, and data is important, but I think there's nothing better than a personal touch. And I know my athletes, I've been here for a good amount of time now, and I've had all my teams for, over, a few years now. So really, I understand them. So coming in and being like, hey, how are we feeling today? Like, what's the vibe like mentally and physically? Give me a 1 to 10 checklist. Mentally, how you're feeling, 1 being completely fresh, 10 being completely trashed. And then physically, give me a checklist, and kind of just giving those daily check-ins. It's allowed me to build some rapport with them more than I think they thought, because they're really, wow, coach really cares about how I feel today, versus, and that may change some things throughout that workout versus, all right, hey, I know it's Monday. You just came back from a long weekend of playing. It's max effort day, max squats. Here we go. And, after I just asked them how they're feeling, they're like, oh, well, I feel like a 7 or 8. Like I'm feeling pretty trashed. Well, it's like, well, we're not going to be able to get max effort out of them, obviously, if they're feeling like an 8 mentally and physically. So maybe we try to get some of that low hanging fruit that we know is best for them right now, and maybe get some recovery work in while still getting some solid work, because we got to work at the end of the day. But then maybe tomorrow we can come back and hit maybe some of those bigger lifts that we need to hit once they're a little bit more recovered and recharged and rejuvenated mentally. So I think that's kind of helped me in the coaching aspect. And then kind of vice versa. I know your second question was, how is kind of the coaching turned into my training? And I think it's been interesting to kind of merge this all together, because as a strength coach, we're in the gym, 5, 6 a.m. to 5, 6 o'clock at night, and so I think for me, I've been able to really integrate everything together in my life. And so it's been pretty cool. Most of my athletes, if not all of them, know I'm training for Ironman and I'm running and biking. Half the time they'll see me running outside of campus and they'll be like, what's up, coach? And so that I think it's been really cool to integrate those two together versus like, hey, I'm not just a triathlete and a ex-basketball player and also a strength coach. It's like, no, hey, I'm just a person, and I happen to be training for a triathlon. And I also, I'm still well integrated into the hoops world. And I'm also in charge of 6 different teams that all require different demands, and have totally different movement patterns and things that are involved, but it's really all well integrated. And I think I kind of feed off that too, because, like when the first Ironman was gearing up, or even the second one, it's been cool to kind of have my athletes, kind of have my back, or, they'll joke around and ask, all right, how many miles have you ran today? It's like 8 a.m. coach. Did you already run in, 10 miles? And I'm like, yo, chill. So that's pretty cool to mess around with them, and it kind of builds a better relationship. But then also, I think it builds back into, they see me working. And so for them, it's like, oh shoot, if coach is out here, even though he's doing something totally different, I could respect that. And, I think you always drive more, more buy-in and also better connections and relationships when you're putting in work, even if it's not the exact same work. You're putting in work and really pushing yourself mentally and physically, just like you're preaching and trying to instill into your athletes. It's a cliche, practice what you preach, but I think it really makes a difference, especially at the collegiate level. I think it really makes a difference when you're trying to build those connections where you have all these athletes that are still in that foundational basis of their training, of their life. You can make a big impact with a small effect.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's cliche to say, but honestly, it goes a long way, and you can't measure it in any sort of way. But I mean, the impact, the relationships, the connections, those conversations you have, like that could be just something initiating a conversation. You're running by them, and them just saying what's up to you. That's an easy opener for them to talk to you more about something. Maybe they open up and give you a little bit feedback of how they really honestly feel for a training session. And I like that too. Like we do get very data driven. I mean, if we're using cards, if we have percentages, all that stuff, it's a lot of numbers. It feels like school sometimes to them, where this is almost like another task that gets added on, and they're running plays and stuff, and everything's just very formal. To kind of throw that off to the side and just have an informal conversation with, hey, just tell me what it is, like how you're feeling. And I like how you switch it up too. Is like, hey, are you trashed? Like, what's the vibe? Because I mean, people don't realize that, and you're in a good position because you're a little bit closer to their age than maybe some coaches that have been in the profession for a lot. But you're just like you would talk to a sport coach, you're using their lingo a little bit too. I mean, regardless if that's how you talk, it doesn't matter. It relates to them right away, and that's an awesome aspect. And I like the integrating the stuff between the coaching. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I like to be competitive, and I like to be involved in strength sports, and I want something to train for. But at the end of the day, yeah, we're just people, and I'm doing this sport. I don't want it to say like he was a strong man, he was a Highland Games athlete. It's not going to say that on my tombstone. So there's a lot more that goes into it. I just so happen to do those things. And it's the same with them, how we want to treat them. It's like, you're not a volleyball player, like your name, and you happen to play volleyball. And I think that carries a lot more weight with them when you break it down to who the person is individually, rather than just classify them by the sport they play.
For sure. Yeah. It makes a huge difference, man. I think from someone I had 2 season ending injuries in college, and that's kind of what, led me to really have such a passion for the more sports performance realm versus just the work hard training, because I wasn't the most skilled in high school. And so I really had to, that was my edge, was not just the endurance from the cross country, but I just was in the gym nonstop. And I knew if I could outwork everybody else, I was going to make my way to where I wanted to. But, I get athletes that are injured, and they start freaking out, like, oh, coach, shoot, like I'm going to graduate in a year. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, how am I, like, even simple questions, like, how am I still going to train? Like, I'm not going to have you writing programs for me. I'm like, yo, chill. Like, let's just figure out, like, what is it that you want in life? Like, take volleyball away, take hoops away, take anything away. What do you want to do? Not like who you're trying to be. I don't want to be not the typical question of what do you want to be when you grow up, but like, what's your why? Like, if you take away the sport, why do you wake up and do what you do? Why are you deciding to do this major? Like, what are you trying to gear yourself towards? And I think those conversations that I've been able to have been really valuable, because then you're really able to strip away, like you said, they're a person. They're beyond athletes. They're people, and they're at such a foundational level in the collegiate realm to where you can really make an impact with one conversation like that with an injured athlete. And maybe it sparks reinvigoration mentally to be like, yeah, you know what, I can come back from this injury or this little thing. And I'm more than just an athlete. This is what I'm going to go for. And then maybe those benefits of the mental aspect of that athlete drive the physical aspects. I mean, I've seen that before where, you got an athlete that's not motivated, and you maybe have a talk with them and you just let them open up and be vulnerable. And Next thing you know, they're back in the gym and you're like, wait, are you the same person that I just saw the other day? Like, your energy is on another level. I didn't know you had that. I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling good. And, it's a night and day difference.
Yeah, it's amazing to see those differences when those athletes have confidence or a conversation can spark something. And I mean, you've gone through a lot of those things and you have relatable experience from your competition background, like your training, your college career, and going through injuries yourself. A lot of times that's what ends up being coaches. They have so many different experiences, being at different places, different sports, going through injuries or going through different scenarios in your life, that it's an easier to have that conversation with the athletes because you're kind of like a big brother, big sister to them, where you can speak at their same level because you're already a little bit ahead of them and try to help them avoid those pitfalls. But you definitely can't have those conversations without having the relationship that you've built and the rapport that you've built with them, like through trust. Like, most people are going to give you a half-assed answer or just kind of a cliche one if you ask them what's your why and you take out their sport. But because you sit there and, like, when you do your wellness like conversations and you actually truly care about it, you change the program based off how they feel. They know you have your best interests in mind. So when you ask them to talk to them, they open up a little bit more than they would normally. And I mean, that's the biggest thing I think about college athletics and just coaching in general is those relationships you're able to foster, and having more time with them definitely helps. And then honestly, they'll run through a brick wall after that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what you want from anything. And then just be respectful with how you come across with those things. So that's awesome to hear, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's I think like you said, it's one of those unchartable qualities of a coach that I think it makes a big difference in the weight room. But it also just makes a big difference in your job too. Like, there's nothing like having a team that doesn't want to come in and lift. They're not motivated because they know you're going to crush them every single session, and you got to get these max effort lifts in, and they're just like, oh, we got to see coach again today, or we got to go lift again today. It's like, nah, man, we got to, like, the best adaptations are driven by having motivation and having fun, right? Like, now fun doesn't have to mean, yeah, we're playing, tag, but like, you got to come in here juiced up, motivated. And that's when you get those big adaptations, those neuro adaptations as well. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to drive, right? Trying to drive, what are the changes we can make in this athlete to become not just a better athlete, but also, and then when we're talking sport specific, how to make them a better baseball player, basketball player, football player. And I think sometimes it's not seen like this enough. And I think I see it maybe more because I'm a little bit, like you said, a little bit not as far away from my playing days. And also, I try to get in tune with them. So sometimes I talk their lingo. Sometimes I have a lot of female teams. So every other day, it's a new TikTok that they're showing me. Coach, do this TikTok dance. Come on, let me show you. And I'm like, all right, forget it. Let's do it. So I can't tell you how many times I've been on their TikToks doing these weird, funky dances, hitting the whoa and all this stuff. And, on IGs and just kind of messing around, being goofy, because I think that 2-second or 5-second IG post or TikTok is going to go a far amount compared to their buy-in and like, hey, look, all right, today let's get to work. And they're like, oh shoot, yeah. It's like subconsciously they're getting this give and take relationship, and that just, I've seen it drive adaptation in here throughout my years of training. In my experience, where maybe when I first came in, it was, all right, hit these numbers, because that's, as a strength coach, that's what we're taught, right? Like, but trying to really understand the more untraditional approach, really understanding like, hey, yeah, we got to get work in. There's certain numbers we do have to hit, and numbers are good and data is important. Not saying it's not, but at the end of the day, if I don't have a buy-in from a team, and you get it too. You're working with, it's not like we're working with 5 individuals a day. We're working with, I got 170 athletes, plus. So I got to create buy-in quick. I got to create it fast, but at the end of the day, I have to create it authentically. And if it's not authentic, you're going to have one person maybe be on the page and then the other 25 on the team be like, nope, coach isn't bought in with us. He really doesn't feel what we feel, right? He's not swimming in the pool. He's not dribbling the ball on the court. He's not, running the sprints and doing all this and that. So it's just going to drive a negative relationship. And I think when I can get that buy-in and maybe go a little extra, even though I think it's kind of fun sometimes, and having those extra talks and taking those small little moments out, even if it takes a little extra time, I know it's paying dividends in the long run for not only for me, but more so for them.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, we're not married to what's on the paper. And I mean, you're a prime example of like the art of coaching and not just sticking to just the numbers for the day and treating them just as kind of test subjects. You're finding the best way to get the adaptations at the right time. And at the same time, like you talked about in the beginning, you're finding a way for it to stick and finding a way for them to be motivated, engaged, stimulated. And maybe it's just doing the same exact exercise and doing it with something different or making it fun or whatever, incorporating a dance into it or just filming it. And like those things go miles in terms of their buy-in and their engagement. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's going to get a better training stimulus and I mean, positively, like better impact for them if they're engaged with that, which is awesome. And you talked about, I know you've got a ton of athletes and I mean, aquatic sports, court sports, combative ones, you said 170 over 6 teams. That's a lot of stuff. And yeah, if you're just kind of beating them with like exercises, A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, like all that, they're not gonna they're gonna start to fight with you and be like, oh, he's not on the court with us, he's not swimming, like he doesn't even know what this arm bar looks like, he doesn't know any of this stuff. So how do you go about approaching like training these different sports because they are so different and you're not going to be able to necessarily do them all? You're not going to be able to actually be at a Division I college wrestlers level or be able to like feel what it is like to go through a whole water polo match against someone at that level. So how do you kind of develop your own training philosophy and prepare them to be effective, efficiently at their sport when you know you can't play all of them? Like what do you go about? What's your process to finding these KPIs and everything?
Yeah, I mean, great question. It's I think the more time I've spent as a coach here and understanding these teams and having the relationships with them, I think I've been able to grow. But honestly, it just starts at the fundamental level. Like I'm not afraid to ask questions if I don't know something. So I mean, I've spent a lot of time researching, not just online, but also, like studying film of my athletes. Also, I try to get out to, well, obviously this is pre-COVID, but I try to get out to as many matches and games and things as I can, because, since I do have, a lot of athletes, a typical strength coach maybe is more immersed in the practice deal of things too, where they can go out to practices and watch practices and games. And I just don't get a chance to do that because I always have to be mostly inside the APC. So I try to get as many games as I can. So I'm getting some visual understanding, but then like, even for swim, right? Like me going out there and swimming, I know you said like, it's hard to get every single sport. So I already have a basketball background. Obviously I played it. So that's kind of like my bread and butter, right? Like I can talk to their coach and I'm almost integrated into the coaching staff where, I can really understand that. But with the other sports, I've had to go to the coach and say, hey, look, this is the plan I have to train to be the best athlete that they can. So not just the best wrestler, but the best human performance and athletic performance that I can provide for them. Now, you tell me what it is in the sport that I'm missing that I need to understand better from your perspective. And let's dive into that and let's fill in these holes. And so I think the one thing that I feel like has also been great here is I have a really good relationship with all my sport coaches, which is another, I think, aspect that is undervalued especially at the collegiate level. Is if you do not have a good relationship with your sport coach, that also can hinder buy-in, right? With not just your athletes, but also the coach too, because now the coach maybe wants something totally different than what you're providing. And, there's been times where, maybe I'm doing something that at the end of the day is beneficial to that athlete and to that team. But the coach is like, hey, this is what I see in the water. Or like, I've been a sport coach for 30 years in swimming. So this is what I see as a swimmer. Our ankles aren't mobile enough. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that assessment real quick. Let's check it out. And then, yeah, you know what? You're right. So let's add that in. So like, I'm not afraid to, I feel like I have a really good knowledge and base of what it takes to be a great athlete just overall. But at the same time, there's gaps that I know I can't fill in on my own. So I have to rely on my sport coaches, also do a lot of research on my own. But I think just having those conversations, like it could be as simple as, hey, wrestling coach, all right, maybe you're not satisfied with some of the things that you're seeing here. I know we're hitting shoulder strength and mobility and stability. We're hitting a lot of core. We're hitting a lot of rotational movements. We're hitting a lot of, high intensity lifts. But maybe he wants a specific movement because he knows that movement, he's been coaching for 30 years. He's been in some of these top programs, and he knows that this movement could be a game changer for his guys to understand the fatigue of the sport and the taxation of pulling a guy in, right? Grappling him, just having the grit and the arm strength, okay, shoot. Well, let's talk about that, right? If we need to watch film, let's watch some film, and then let me see how I can apply it. So then I kind of go back to the lab and I say, okay, let me check this out myself. Like, is this something that I could even do, right? Because it's because I am still athletic and I still, pride myself in trying to practice what I preach. Yeah, maybe I can't do a whole wrestling match, but maybe there's a move or two that I can go practice and see if it actually applies and how I can manipulate it to where it sticks with them. And it's also easily transferable, and it's also doable in the weight room, right? And so I think that kind of like feedback loop of, all right, set the base of what I know I can provide based on if it's a sport that I'm very I know to a great understanding, or maybe I don't, right? And I'm still constantly learning it and pushing myself in hoops as well. But it's like, then once that base is set up, let's go and have these conversations that need to be had. And in doing so, I become more knowledgeable about the sport. The coach becomes more knowledgeable about not only what I can provide, but also what I can't. So there's some boundaries set, right? Like, hey, this is what I got and this is what I don't. Let's merge it. And then you're creating buy-in with the coach. You're creating a little bit of autonomy. And at the end of the day, you're creating trust, because then happy coach, happy you. Unhappy coach, unhappy you, because now they're on your butt, right? And it's like everything you provide isn't good enough. And so, even if the athlete's like, coach, yeah, everything you're doing is great, and the coach and the sport coach is like, this is not what we need, right? There's got to be a compromise. And so I think it really just starts with having the base, knowing what you need to do athletically and also mentally to get things to transfer, and then filling in the gaps with having connections with the sport coaches, having those conversations, watching film. Every once in a while, even too, asking an athlete, hey, while you're doing this, hey, how does that feel to you? Like, does that feel like you're actually getting the rotation in your core like you need to? Or like, what is that like? And, sometimes, most of the time it's like, yeah, I'm, and every once in a while it's like, well, actually, coach, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not really getting that connection. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, let's figure that out. Maybe in that session. And then, if I'm not able to figure it out in that session, okay, go back to the drawing board as soon as they're done with that lift. When I get time that day and say, okay, all right, this is the move. Well, this is the movement pattern we're trying to get. Well, maybe that could be tweaked, and then taking their feedback and the feedback of the coach and then making that switch. And I think sometimes it almost seems so simple that it becomes really hard, but I think it's just an honest answer is just communication, man. Like when I was, as a young coach, I'm obviously still youngish, but like as a beginning coach, I think you take pride in like not having all the answers. An athlete comes up to you, well, coach, I'm feeling this in my back. Or, okay, let's fix this. Or this is what's going on. All right, let's fix this. Or the sport coach is like, hey, we need to do this. And you're just kind of trying to please everybody, answer all the questions, but not really know the problem and how to fix the problem. You're just kind of band-aiding the symptoms. And I think what I've really gotten to is, hey, let's fix the problem. If there's a problem or there's a gap that needs to be filled, let's go find the answers. Let's get outside of the box, and then let's come back inside the box with the proper tools. And then you kind of just piece it together. And it's not always perfect, but I think when you do it that way, at least for me, I've found it to be very beneficial, rewarding for the athlete, rewarding for the coach, also rewarding for myself. And it just kind of builds back into the buy-in of the whole system. And, you know, when you're dealing with that many athletes, I got to get as many people on the same page as possible very, very quickly.
Yeah, I love that. I think you would run yourself ragged if you sat there the whole time and just tried to like triage everything and just put a Band-Aid on stuff, because that's valuable time where you're kind of addressing one person. But if you're able to like take a step back, learn what the biggest issue of it is, what's the actual problem, collect some information on it, speak with the coaches and the athletes, and then fill in those gaps, you can probably solve the problem ahead of time and not have to worry about those small little issues that pop up. And it's all communication and conversation with them, and kind of taking your program and dissecting it and seeing what actually works. And that's awesome to kind of hear. And then speaking a little bit to what you actually talked about, like being integrated in basketball, you're still learning, which is awesome. But that's kind of how initially you got involved. You coming out of college career, like you already had a pretty good understanding playing basketball since you were 4 and everything. What was kind of your first introduction into coaching, like leading to your current position and everything? Because I know you had some experience even in the private sector, and then even coaching a little bit basketball where you integrated the two. What kind of drew you to college, and what kind of was the trajectory to get you to this current point?
Yeah. So when I graduated, my last year at CBU, I made a good, my old coach, at CBU, who's still the coach currently at CBU, we had a great connection. And, so he actually started his coaching career, at a junior college, and like way back then. And the guy's a great coach, Division I coach now. He's been Division I caliber for a long time, but so he started at the junior college level. And so I was still kind of, I actually had a couple opportunities to go play overseas out of college, but I really sat down and was just like, look, this could go two ways. I could try to go scrap out overseas, right? And I knew my talent level. Like, I was very honest with myself. I knew I could outwork. I knew I was going to outwork anybody, but it doesn't mean I was going to outskill, right? Like, be the most skilled. So I knew that there was a timeline. So I said, look, I could probably go play overseas and bounce around teams and be that like really good defensive player and get a bucket when necessary, but not be a top scorer. Be a great role player for 2 or 3 years, make decent money, travel around the world. Like, that'd be a cool experience. You know, I graduated, I was 27 now. So I was 21, 22. So I was like 22, could do that. Or I could really get this sports performance thing off the ground. Like, I could really just take this thing. Like, I really understood, hey, all this stuff I'm experiencing as a player, I can now be very reputable because I was a player. Like, and I played at a pretty decent level and won a lot of games at CBU. And so like, I could really influence other basketball players and athletes because I can say, look, I've gone through these things, right? Like, now that doesn't make me credible off the bat, but now I add some of this, now I add my knowledge and my relationship skills to these things. Like, I could be a way better coach than I could be a player. And to me, working, getting my 170 plus athletes to become better human beings and better athletes, to me, is way more rewarding than hitting a game winning 3, in a basketball game. Like, it's not even scalable. So, my head coach was like, hey, look, why don't you, because I was battling between, being a skill development and actual basketball coach, or being a basketball coach and also strength and conditioning coach. I knew I wanted to go into sports performance, but it was like, hey, I really love the skill development side of things. Like, I was, at the time when I was graduating, I had started kind of training outside. So like a private sector, I was doing a lot of skill development work with some youth around Riverside, and because I had connections because I'm from Riverside growing up, so I, was training outside my out of my old high school gym, and everybody that kind of knew me was like, hey, like I'm trying to get this work, let's get it, and I'm like, okay, this could be cool, and so I went to the junior college that he coached at, and just kind of started my own way too, and so they had just got a new coach. It was at Citrus College out in Glendora, and so they had just got a new coach, Brett Lauer, great coach, great guy, still good friends with him. And so that was his first year as a head coach at Citrus. And so he needed an assistant. So it was just me and him. So I was head assistant basketball coach, also in charge of skill development for all of the players. And then also I was the strength and conditioning director. So I did all the strength and conditioning, not only for hoops, but then I also, as I built rapport over there at Citrus, I was able to kind of work with some of the soccer players, work with some of the other athletes that, at junior college, you don't have a strength coach, really. There's only very few that do. So besides football, really no one else had a full actual strength coach. So I was able to take charge of basketball, obviously, and then work with some other athletes. And so I really was able to, straight out of college, getting my BS, I was able to go straight into getting great hands-on, reps after reps, like really thrown into the fire, like, hey, you're going to be a basketball coach. You're going to do recruiting. You're going to do scouting. I scouted almost every game. I was in charge of scouts. 5 a.m. I was working out our point guards, doing skill development on the court. And then, I'm doing class checks and everything with all my other players, trying to get these guys recruited and matriculation, get them out to Division I's, Division II's. And then I ran the weight room and all the lifts and the sport performance work after practice. And then maybe some extra skill work for some of those guys before they got out of there. So, it was like a 3:30 a.m. wake up, drive to Glendora, 5 a.m. we're on the court all day. We're coaching, training, lifting, skill development. After 6 o'clock hits, I'm out sitting in about 2 hours traffic on the way back to Riverside. I get there at 8 o'clock. I pull up to a park, and now I'm doing skill development with my young guys in Riverside till like 10 o'clock till the lights go out. And then I'm back to the crib, 11 o'clock. I'm asleep, 3:30, do it again for about a year straight. And so it was, man, when I tell you it was a grind, man, like it was a grind. And at junior college, I wasn't making, much. So, there were times where, I'm sleeping in my car multiple times just to try to get to certain, gigs or, just overnight, just scrapping it out. And I never take those times for granted because it really helped me get my feet wet straight out of the gate and really apply the knowledge that I thought I knew and then really understand it. And so that really helped me understand, hey, look, I still want to be, like, to this day, I still stay in tune with the skill development side of things, and I still train and work out myself. Even on top of the triathlon training, I still get my shots up and I still do my workouts and I still study hoops, because I think that's a valuable part that I don't ever want to lose contact, is to be a sports performance coach, but also really break down and understand deceleration, acceleration, like specific parts and components of hoops, I think is invaluable. And so I've taken that and I've just been like, look, I really want to be the sport performance coach, like the strength and conditioning coach. I don't want to be an actual basketball coach. It's not because I don't love the sport, but at the same time, there's just different things that come with it. And at the end of the day, right, you can't do two things amazing, right? There's only, I don't know of an NBA coach that has won multiple titles as a coach and is also is doing all the strength and conditioning work. Like it just doesn't work that way. And so I knew my niche and my passion and my joy and my connection, and the best way I can make an impact and the highest impact I can make would be at the sports performance level, but still having understanding of the skill development side to be able to fuse those two together as freely as I can. And so that's kind of what got my feet wet, got me started. And then the relationships I built at CBU, actually in the health science department, that's what kind of brought me back here. I had a couple opportunities to go be a strength coach somewhere else after Citrus due to some connections. And I got asked to be a grad assistant in the exercise physiology lab at CBU and get my master's. And I was like, oh, you guys are going to pay for my master's and I'll be a grad assistant? Say less, I'm there. So I went back, And the rest was kind of history from there. That CBU had a part-time, one of their strength coaches who actually I knew both of them from my time playing here. She was going to go move on. And so they needed a part-time fill-in. And I was like, man, this is God, man. Like, I'm about to get my master's. I'm a grad assistant. I'm getting exercise physiology work. So now I'm building my coaching base differently, because now I'm getting this metabolic side of adaptation that you wouldn't get from strength and conditioning normally. I'm getting hands-on experience with VO2 max training and all this other stuff. And now I can go be a part-time strength coach. And so I was working with, I had like three or four teams. So I would wake up and I would like typically do some skill development with some guys before I had to be into the lab at 9. I was in the lab from 9 to like 1. So like 5 hours or so. And then I was a part-time strength coach from 1 o'clock to like 6:30, whatever. I did my 4 teams. And so I did that for about 7-8 months. And then CB was like, well, we got to bring on somebody full time. And it just so happened, because of obviously God, and also the great relationships I had and the rapport I built with my previous coaches who knew me as a player. And then also my health science staff and everybody here, the new strength and conditioning coordinator, Jason Kwan, who's my director now. He was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Like, come on, let's bring you on full time. And that's kind of what sparked it, man. And then those were the teams that I kind of just took over. I didn't even ask for women's hoops. I just took over the teams that the previous coach had, and then added the team, 2 years ago, and the rest is history.
That's a cool story, man. I know it's awesome to see all the experiences and you had, and kind of how everything came to fruition. And it's cool to see you get to go back to your alma mater, and when you feel like you found a place that fits what you want to do, you see the trajectory of where it's going and the potential in it. I think a lot of people arguably would choose that over a bigger school or more money or something. It's just, it's the right way to do it, I think. And I'd rather feel comfortable and prepared in my position and happier in my position, knowing that everything falls in line, everybody's on the same page with the stuff. And it's cool to see that you found that place, and from your playing times now kind of working your way up, and seeing how you going through the exercise phys department, you kind of, hopefully you get to use that department a little bit with your triathlon training too now.
Definitely do.
You got connections there. You've got connections with coaches, skill development side, like sport performance side. So you have a lot more tools that are at your disposal that you can use to help benefit your athletes a lot more, which is great. Because I think anybody that has more experience at either different divisions or with different teams, or even like working as a physical therapy aide or something, you can bring a lot more of that knowledge to a field that's trying to get way too specific at the moment. We're starting to see like those strength conditioning degrees and undergrad and athletic training kind of has done that too, like making their master's program. You kind of get pigeonholed, and then your scope of focus is so narrow that everything just seems to be by the book. And it's cool to see you expand and have more experience and be very unique with how your approach is, which is cool. I know CBU is definitely interesting, and this might have impacted your decision to come back. But for those that don't know, like, Cal Baptist is currently like in the process of going fully Division I. I know they are now, and you're in the Western Athletic Conference now, but unfortunately you guys are still on that weird 3-year postseason competition band, even with some of your teams rolling through at the moment. So how's the experience been thus far, like during your transition to Division I? Obviously you were there before it happened, when it was announced, and then you're still continuing the process to being fully integrated. So how's that kind of gone down? Like, what kind of upgrades, conference changes, bumps in the road, or plans for the future do you guys have in place?
Yeah, well, we can first start with the upgrades that I'm a little salty about, because as a player here, I mean, our gym was packed and it was rocking. And it got bumping every game, but it only it was like a high school gym, so it only fit about 1,000 people. And a year after I graduated, of course, they build a huge arena that sits, I think, 4,500. I mean, it looks like a baby Staples Center. So we call it the event center, and that's where our men's and women's team, basketball teams play. So that was kind of an upgrade, and I'm still slightly salty about it, but now that I get to work with the hoops team, and I get to be in there a lot more on my own as a coach, I'm cool with it. So that was an upgrade. We also went from, I mean, I think probably the coolest thing for me too to see here is the development. And I've seen, I mean, as a player, so the year before I came in, we didn't even have a weight room. We didn't have an athletic performance center. It was literally the athletic training room. And there were like weights and dumbbells and I think like 2 or 3 racks. And like, it was just like old school grit and grind, gridiron gang kind of stuff. And then they built, the year I got in, it was it was their second year. They have an APC. So it's about 1,500 square foot facility, just one big alleyway kind of. We had 8 half racks. And then had trap bars, power, like I think it was like 12 power blocks spaced in between, etched in platforms for lifting and some steel bells and some other stuff and physio balls. And then when I graduated, they still had that. When I came back, I was a part-time strength coach. I was in that facility. We were in that facility for about 6 months as they were building a temporary facility for us across the campus and health science campus, which was about 6,000 square feet. So, almost quadruple the amount of space. And we moved all of our stuff over there. So then I was a strength coach in there for about 6 to 8 months, I'd say probably 9 months, almost a year. And that was great. So we had all the equipment and we were able to get some new equipment. And then boom, a year ago, so 2019. So actually, almost 2 years ago. But we've only been open for a year. The new APC, the one that we're currently in and will be in for a long time, it's 11,000 square feet. I mean, you've been in it. It's pretty awesome, man. We got 30-yard turf, sleds. We got 6 new power racks. So we have total 14 racks now. We got more power blocks. We have Kaisers. I mean, the whole works. It's honestly a blessing. Like sometimes I come in here and I'm like, man, it's crazy to think that I get a chance to coach in here and have these tools to play with. Because I think it really makes a difference, not just with programming, but also scheduling, right? With all the athletes that we have too, the ability to, maybe have two teams in here at a time. Not right now because of COVID, but it really just kind of changes everything. And so it's been nice. So those are kind of the upgrades. And then, I think coming in when I first was coaching here and I found out we were going to go to Division I was like, yeah, that's dope, without knowing the postseason ban, like really understanding what it meant. And I think that first year, I think every athlete that signed for S2, and I guess this is probably more for all athletes, but I think more so probably for hoops, right? It was tough because the first year people were like, well, I'm coming, maybe I'll be able to play that next year. But the ban kind of got to people, I think the second year of recruiting, because then they're like, well, it's too soon to play a year, because the first 2 years we couldn't play WAC postseason at all. So I think that's how it goes. Like the first 2, you can't play WAC tourney, because we're in the 3rd year now. We're actually able to play. Yeah. Okay. So this year we're in the WAC tourney. And then next year we still won't be able to play in March Madness, but we'll still be able to play WAC tourney. And then that 5th year we'll finally be able to get into March Madness. And so I think it's been a challenge recruiting, not so much as I thought, but there still is, a little bit of a challenge. I think now, because if you come in as a freshman, you're going to be able to play regardless. I don't think it's an issue, but the first 2 years, I think we saw some hard deals that I think we probably could have, maybe some athletes we could feel like we could have got. But because of it's tough when you're a transfer and you're like, I only got 2 more years left. And we're like, well, you won't be able to play in March Madness. Then they're like, all right, I got to go somewhere else. And so but I mean, we've also been able to get a lot of great girls and guys in all sports, but especially in hoops, to really kind of revamp, and make this transition to Division I. And it's been interesting to have the conversations with the coaches and hear their thoughts and how it affects and how it doesn't affect recruiting. But I think at the end of the day, Division I was the best move we could have made overall for performance and for the sports world for us, because it brought us better facilities. It brought us, not only is it going to continue to bring us better athletes, but I think it's going to really allow us to blossom. We went from NAIA to, when I played here, we were Division II, but we were on the top end of Division II, right on our way before we went to Division I. And I feel like every time it's kind of been like, we just keep getting better and getting better. It really hasn't been a year where we kind of plateau or we drop down. And so it's been awesome to see and been really special to be a part of it as a player, and now come back as a coach. Not just see the changes in facilities, but see the changes in, the atmosphere. Like, I think like we all kind of knew we could be better, but then when you start putting things together and you start seeing the facilities and you start seeing the recruits and you start seeing some of these other things and the wins and, it's like, wow, yeah, like it's go time. Like, this is really us. This is what we do. And we're just trying to continue to level up, and hopefully we can get to, the level of some of these other conferences and make our way up. And I think it's been awesome to be a part of that this year. We were talking previously about women's hoops. They are 24-0 right now, so perfect regular season. They're playing in the WAC tournament today. So praying, let's go, ladies. Let's get that dub so we can play in a championship game tomorrow. And then, but the unfortunate part is, even if we win the WAC tourney, and although we win a perfect season, we still won't get invited to the March Madness. So it's I think that postseason ban is kind of rough, because I think it kind of limits teams, where, for example, for us, where we have a great season, and we're not really able to make it to the big dance, even though, we'll be able to hopefully get some WNIT action. But I think maybe there should be some changes made there, as far as, like, I know my head women's basketball coach had made a recommendation of, still being able to get in, but maybe the money or the financial benefits that are made, or maybe then just giving back to the conference rather than to the actual school. I think that sounds like a smart plan, because I think that's the big issue with those postseason bans is, well, we don't want you guys just, making all the monetary benefits. Well, it's like, hey, well, we're not about that. We just want to compete. So let's just find a way to get it done. And I think that would maybe be something that could be passed in the future, but obviously won't impact us because we'll have one more year next year. But it's been, I think it's been challenging sometimes, but it's also been a fun challenge to take on as a strength coach, and be integrated with these coaches as well, and these athletes, and kind of feel the transition. And it's also, I think it just speaks to, for me, the reason why I feel like CBU has just been a blessing too is, beyond just the connections and everything that I kind of had before, I've been able to kind of, really build a legacy here, as far as for my athletes, not even so much for myself, but just really to really, I've gotten, like, my women's hoops team, I got most of them when they were a freshman. So this is their, they're going on their third or fourth year. Most of my athletes that I got, like, I feel like they were freshmen or sophomores when I got them. And so it's been really awesome to just kind of see the progression of them, not just as athletes, but as human beings. And that's what I think I take pride in the most as a coach, especially here, is what is the, I always tell my athletes this too, but I even think about it myself. What's the legacy that I'm trying to leave? I don't want coaches. I don't want, if somebody comes in and takes my place, or if new athletes come in, I don't want them, like, I don't care about, oh, he's the best coach, or, oh, he helped me lift this much weight, or all that. To me, that doesn't matter. To me, it's, wow, like, that guy really freaking cared about his athletes. Like, and at the end of the day, for me, if I can walk away or go to the next level, or whatever it is, or, whatever may happen, if I can leave here knowing that I made the biggest impact I could, at all levels, to me, that's a win in the win column. And I think that's the legacy that I want to leave, and that I want every athlete to leave. Whether you go play professionally, whether maybe your season's cut short, your career's cut short, or you're just like, yep, I played my 4 years, I'm done, I'm out. Now it's time to the real world, and we go work on our business, whatever it is. I want people to build legacies and build up, because if you build an individual legacy and then a team builds their legacy, you build up CBU's legacy. And now next thing you know, you have a great university that's like, everybody's like, yeah, like if I'm in Inland Empire, if I'm in Riverside, obviously we're competing against other schools in SoCal, like USC, UCLA, like I get all that, but there's no, like, why should we back down from them? There should be a great legacy built here to where we are a contender to come, and it's like, yeah, this is a great school. They're filled with great people, and I'm going to walk out of there better, not just as an athlete, but as a person than I did when I came in. And to me, that's what I care about the most.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And it's cool because it seems like you guys are really, like, obviously for people that don't know where you're centered, you could throw a rock and probably hit like 20 schools. I mean, It'll take 4 hours in traffic to get there, but you can definitely throw it and get there a little bit quicker. But what you guys are doing is focusing on yourselves and then creating your own individual legacy, like you talked about. And then that transfers over. It impacts your small team setting. It impacts the athletic department. It impacts the whole university. And then you're more than just a blip on the radar. Like, people actually know what you guys are about. And it helps with everything. It helps with your relationships, like your work-life balance, recruiting, all those sort of things. And it all comes from like that internal motivation and everything sticking, like you talked about. And it's a testament to the athletes and the coaches and everybody that works within the department to go through that process. It's one thing I haven't gone to go through. I've gone through a conference change at a university, and I thought that was weird in itself, but to see the trajectory you guys are going and then have all the rules in place that forbid you from playing, like, it sucks because it seems like it's a punishment to the players and all they really want to do is compete. And I understand there's rules in place, but it's awesome that you still have players that are so bought into the staff, the university, and their just development that they're willing to kind of forego those things just to be there. And it's cool to see. So, like, on that too, has anything in your like estimate actually changed about your job? And then if not, or if so, like, also what's like the biggest lesson you've kind of learned through this transition process that coaches that may never go through it could benefit from, or if a coach that actually does have to go through a similar process can learn from some of the things that you've had to do?
Yeah. There have been some changes in my job. Obviously, the biggest one that everybody is like, well, you're going from Division 2 to Division 1, so wow, you guys got to be really great, right? And it's like, yeah, we already were trying to be as best as we could before, so not too much change in the sense of like, oh, we got to get our squat numbers up by 200 pounds now because we're going to go against bigger athletes, things like that. It's not so much that. It's more so just there's a bigger scope, right? So like everybody's really watching to see if CBU is going to crack. Are we going to make it? Are we not? Like this little Christian school out of Riverside, like what are they about, And I think it's been really cool to see some of our teams, like, shout out men's water polo, just won the WWPA championship against Air Force. So that, that's a big win for us. First time in history of school. So that's awesome. Women's hoops, right? Going undefeated, 24-0, going into that conference, hopefully coming out 26-0. Like that's putting us on the map. Like people are like, yo, who is this CBU team out in Cali? Like, what are they doing over there? And other sports too. And so obviously the microscope is even bigger. So that's a thing too, but also taking on, with the new facility comes more responsibility because we are so understaffed. It's just myself and my director, Jason, that it sometimes it's made things harder because we have a bigger facility. So we should have more athletes at one time. And so that even though it may not seem like a lot, or it may seem like, oh, that's like, it shouldn't be an issue. scheduling issues have been a different deal. Having to have those communication talks with our coaches to say, hey, look, we have a bigger facility, but at the same time, there's only a certain amount of staff. So we have to maneuver a little differently versus in the previous facility where when I first got here, where there was only 1,500 square feet, it was really simple. One team at a time. That's all you could fit. Like if I have 15 athletes, that's almost 2 people per rack. So that's all we can do. If we had 30 athletes, man, we're really moving and grooving. But that's really all you can do, to where now we have almost 12,000 square feet. We got a turf, we got 14, full racks, we got power racks so that you can double. So it really changes the demands in programming and also coaching, on floor coaching, which I think are subtle. They're subtle differences, but at the same time, if you're not prepared for them, and you don't really appreciate them, that I think they can get to you. And then also I think, slightly too, just like every coach, right? Every sport coach is like, let's go. Like, this is Division I. So let's make sure we're tracking properly. So, having those conversations with coaches, like, hey, look, yeah, there were things that we were gearing for in Division II. Our actual trajectory and what we were going for doesn't change, but maybe the way into we're trying to get those, or the progression to try to get those with our athletes, maybe needs to be expedited, or, maybe training frequency versus, hey, I know at the Division II level, we were very competitive with 2 times a week training in here, but now at Division I need these guys I need more adaptation. So let's get them 3 times in. So now that creates a challenge for me, because now not only at the basis of more programming, but now scheduling. Shoot, can I get this team in for a 3rd time, right, during this week? And where can I fit them in? How can I fit them in? Well, is half the team going to miss class? Or is half the team going to miss a lift because of class? And then now I have to do a whole nother makeup session. Like, that doesn't work for me because I'm too spread thin. So we got to figure that out. So I think there's subtle moves. It's not like this big, oh, all right, here we go. Division I's totally different. It's really not that much different. But it's the subtle differences that, if you're not ready for them and you don't attack them head on, can really kind of stack up on you, especially with, we're in a scenario like ours where we don't have, 4 or 5 full-time strength coaches. And then we have, maybe 2 or 3 assistants. And then we have interns and grad assistants. I mean, it's literally just Jason and I. So we really have to be ahead of those things and make sure our coaches are transparent with us, and we're transparent with them.
Cool. That's awesome, man. I know, it's probably why they give those years to kind of transition. And I've seen other schools go through it, and a few of them that have kind of crumbled under the pressure and found ways to go back. I know I've seen some of the FCS and FBS football programs just not be able to handle it for whatever reason. And you wonder how the process kind of unfolded. So it's cool to hear firsthand experience of how you guys have actually gone through it and then been adapted to the situation, and will continue to progress going forward. So that's awesome, man. Hey, so we end the show like any good training session with a finisher. So I got 4 quarters, 4 questions, and probably a little bit overtime since you're an endurance athlete. I think you can handle it now, but
dang, I'm not ready for this. I've listened to your podcast, and I told myself, all right, when I get on next podcast, I'm gonna be ready for this. I totally didn't study up, so all right, I'm ready. Here we go.
Hey, that's fine. There's no study needed for any of this stuff. This should be easy, rapid fire. No one's passed so far, so you should be good. So take as much time as you want, or you can shoot them off rapid fire. But you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So biggest influence in strength and conditioning, and biggest influence in endurance sports, if you have someone.
Biggest influence in strength and conditioning, it would be my shout out Chris Bates, my old strength and conditioning coach when I played basketball here at CBU. I mean, the guy was just a big influence on me, mentally as well as physically, not just as a coach, but also as a mentor and a friend. We're still great friends to this day, kind of like a big brother to me. And so he's definitely a guy that I would have to say would be number 1. Number 2, if I could throw a number 2 in there, would be Kevin Backus. If you're out there and you're listening, you taught me how to do every complex movement with a barbell. Well, you taught me how to do it with the dowel first and then a barbell. And I'll never forget that because UCSD, I thought it was just routine on how you taught us. And I came to CBU and I was hang cleaning and power and snatching and power cleaning cleaner than a lot of my teammates. And I thought they thought I was Superman. And so I appreciate that. You made me look dope and also helped me get really strong. So I appreciate you, Kevin Backus.
Awesome.
And the strength and the triathlete world, I don't think there's a specific professional to me, honestly. And this may sound, it may sound like crazy, but I think my mom was probably the biggest influence on me as a triathlete, just because, obviously growing up, seeing her be a cross country coach, and she actually went from never running, when I was really little, never running to walking and then ended up running. And now she's competed in like 4 or 5 marathons. She's done half marathons. She's done ultra marathons. I've actually cheered her across a bunch of finish lines in her marathons. I've actually tracked her when I was at UCSD. She's done a couple Ragnar races. If people aren't familiar with those, it's like a 200-mile trek with like 6 people, and you do like 3 different or 4 different running legs, like 200 miles down the coast of SoCal. And so I've just really been able to really be there for her in those moments. And that's really, I think, sparked me. Like, hey, like my mom's, she's probably one of the strongest women I know. She's battled through a lot, and she continued to this day is still trucking along, doing runs. And, she's battling through some health issues right now, but she's crushing it. And so for me, I think that's kind of inside like my internal, that's the person that I look at. And I'm like, if she can do all this, with everything she's gone through mentally and physically in her life, man, then like I have to crush it. So she's definitely my inspiration when it comes to endurance.
Yeah, that's not crazy at all. She sounds like a badass.
She is.
I'm definitely not doing those runs. And Kevin, I know Kevin pretty well. Lifting over in the pit with all the non-athletes watching you, I can imagine that was fun. Hey, so when you're not coaching, you're not competing, you're not outside training, what are some of your go-to hobbies that you're doing?
Go-to hobbies. I'm a skateboarder. I'm a diehard skateboarder. So I always got a board on me. I've skated. That was actually, besides basketball, that was probably my first or second love. I wanted to become the first Black Ryan Sheckler, or Tony Hawk, I guess you could say. And so I'm always skating, especially in triathlon off season. I'm skating a lot, multiple times a week, almost every weekend. So that's a great hobby I love. Obviously, also hanging out with my girlfriend, sitting on the couch, watching movies and binging some stuff. We both actually were never too big on TV shows, but obviously COVID hit. And so it's like, what do you got better to do? And so I think we ran through like Watchmen. We ran through, I'm a huge New Girl fan. If anybody watches New Girl out there, it's okay if you don't, but you should hop on it. And then Survivor. Never was big on Survivor. She watched that growing up. She's got me hooked now. So we're either watching some type of movie or watching some show, and Community, Arrested Development, all those good shows.
I like it. Hey, so if you weren't coaching in strength and conditioning, what career do you think you'd have? And if you were to pick a different sport outside of triathlons, what do you think that would be?
Oh, good question. This is tough. I guess the first one, I'd probably give 2 answers. Obviously, I would have stuck with skateboarding. Honestly, like I really loved it growing up, and I was pseudo good enough to where I had some local interest in like sponsorship interests in high school, but I almost broke my ankle like before a basketball game. My dad shut it down. He's like, "You're not skateboarding the rest of the high school. You need to go get the scholarship." So I probably would have stayed with skating. Or I really was into band growing up. I know I'm a trash singer. Every once in a while I can hit a good note. My girlfriend can confirm that, but other than that, I'm pretty bad. But I really love drums. So I maybe would have stayed percussion and would have been would have stayed in jazz band or, try to get maybe a gig with a band and working with a drum set or some type of percussion, because I really liked band. I still love music to this day. I'm always listening to music. So that would probably be it. And then second question, other sport outside of triathlons. Honestly, it would probably be, obviously if I would have stayed with hoops, it'd be hoops, but I don't want to stick to those two. So I think I would say dancing, honestly. I was a big dancer in high school too. I was a part of a hip hop dance team. Don't look up footage because you won't find any. I wasn't that good, but I did some crumping, and I don't know if you know back in the day, but it was called the jerk and like the reject, all those dance moves. And so I was a part of a crew, and we battled a couple people, and it was fun and really cool. And so I like to dance. I actually have good rhythm, but I maybe would have done it a little bit more professionally. So that I would say dancing.
All right, then. I wouldn't have guessed a few of those, but I like it. Hey, so this one might be two separate ones. It might be exactly the same, since all your endurance-based stuff, and then I know you're still in the gym training. So go-to training music or like PR song. So it might be a run song, and then best post-training meal if you were setting up an ideal day.
Wow. Training music. So I actually don't run with music often. I think that's a mental aspect I've been trying to work on. When I first started running, I did. Or I'll listen to your podcast or someone else's podcast when I'm running like a recovery run. But in the gym, we got the tunes going. It's something Jay-Z. It's for sure Jay-Z. Jay-Z's best rapper ever, probably best artist ever. Not probably, he is the best artist ever. So it's definitely Jay-Z, something off the Black album, probably Change Clothes, or maybe some of his new stuff that people probably don't know off the top of their head, but I would say probably it's definitely Jay-Z. And then post-workout meal, I'm gonna keep it simple, but it smacks. It would probably be like 6 eggs, like 2 yolks, 4 egg whites, like omelet, and then maybe like half a cup of quinoa and some like air fried sweet potato, and maybe like half an avocado. Like that just sounds really good to me. And I'm a huge fan of keeping it simple, but getting your carbs, getting your protein, getting your healthy fats, and trying to eat more real food post workout than just crush the 80 gram protein shake. Especially with Ironman training, there's times where like this morning I was on the bike, I got to swim in a little bit coming up here, and then I may even have to run later. It's like there's times where you're doing 2-3 workouts in a day where just a protein shake just doesn't get it done. You got to get some whole foods in you.
Right on. Hey, so last one I got for you for overtime. Most valuable piece of advice you've received, and if you want to share, from who?
I was just talking about this the other day, so this would probably be the best. This one's at the top of my mind. It's from my director, Jason Kwan. We're always chopping it up and just kind of like talking about things. And when I first got here as a strength coach, first thing he told me was, "Hey, I know you're an ambitious guy, and I know you're going to do great things, but I want you to listen to what someone told me when I first was a coach, and that is, the best coach is not the one who always sticks to their plan A. The best coach is the coach that has a great plan B, a great plan C, and an even better plan D." And at the first time I was like, it didn't really make sense to me, but especially, now, understanding that how many times in the weight room do we have a program, we have the idea in our mind, we have everything, the flow, and we're like, this is about to be elite. And then a team comes in and it's nothing like that. Right? Like, especially when I talk about autonomy, right? Like having a conversation with athletes, and I'm like, yep, it's a max effort day. They come in, they're like, yep, I'm feeling trash. It's 8 out of 10. Boom, there goes my plan A. So as a good coach, it's like, okay, can I have a plan B, plan C, or plan D? And that may be team wise to where, all right, hey, look, we're still going to get this done, but let's make these changes. Or even it's on an individual basis where you got an athlete you haven't seen in a week because they've been gone traveling, and come to find out maybe they have really, right shoulder soreness from playing, or maybe they tweak their ankle or something small like that. And so now it's like a individual plan B. So can I still get this athlete while I'm working with 25 at a time? Can I get their lift going? And then, hey, I still want you to get working. So that way you still feel valuable and you're still getting what you need, but maybe we unload the ankle, to help with some of that inflammation, or maybe it's, we help with some other things. And so I think that's the best advice that someone taught me is nothing's ever really going to go perfect the way you want it to. So you got to be really good at adapting, but still getting done what you need. Doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it means how can I get the adaptation that I still need while still addressing all of these things.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, I don't think a plan really ever works out that well. You kind of come to think, I mean, you might get a few of those, but they seem to be few and far between. So being adaptable and then already thinking ahead of what could happen, what would be your ideal scenario, you're going to get the best out of it. That's great to hear, man. Hey, so I know you got to run. You got a big game today with the women's hoops in the semifinals. So how can people follow you or get a hold of you if they have other questions or see all the different exercises you're coming up with on the daily?
Yeah, man. You can follow me on IG, on Instagram. My handle is at Mr.athlete. So MR.ATHELITE, and then _. So yeah, that's where I upload a lot of stuff that I'm doing, whether it be triathlon based, a lot of the exercises and things and flows and things that I go through. I also post a lot about my teams on there. And so, yeah, that would be it. Or you can also, email me, my school email at CBU. So it's MIRobinson, MIROBINSON at calbaptist.edu. So if you want to maybe make a more intimate connection, about something else, or, education or anything like that, maybe opportunity, holler at me. Always willing to meet up with great coaches, and just chop shop. And it's kind of how we started, Nick. And I really appreciate, man, just the genuine connection and the conversation we had when you first came in, and we got to meet each other. And I'm grateful to have this experience to just chop it up on here with you, and hopefully maybe inspire some other coaches that are listening to go out there and be great, get better.
Definitely, man. No, I appreciate you. I mean, you showed me around. We got to chop it up, see everything going on. You took time out of your weekend, which some people just don't want to do. So I can't thank you enough for coming on, for our conversation, and for showing me around and everything, man. And we'll definitely keep in touch. And like I said, good luck today. Hope the girls crush it, and you crush some training this afternoon too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yep, both of those will get done.
There you go. Thanks again, Michael. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. You have a good one.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors, Cerberus Strength. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.